weren't happy with just one role in this movie, were you?
No, well, I'm also sleeping with the director, so there's must got to be some benefit. Except, perhaps I'll sleep with him more times, then I'll get a bit bigger parts. Because, like, you know, when he said, "Oh, he could play Janey and the Witch," so I went, you know, and they, I realised it was not a huge, but significant, very significant parts. But the Witch, they're interconnected. I mean, without, you know, when you watch the film, you realise how they all connect up. So in a way, it's actually one part, but with different guises.
Now, was being the witch part, just talking about the witch part, was that a little bit more fun? Is that like Halloween every day?
Yeah, the idea was fun. I've always wanted to play a witch, and I love witches, and it's just that the idea was fun, but the actuality is kind of boring because it took 5 hours to, you know, do the makeup. So that was a bit tricky. Or it was just like, you know, why am I doing this again? Because I played an ape. You know, last time he asked me, he asked me to be a chimpanzee, which required 4 hours of makeup, and this time it took, in fact, the makeup test was 8 hours. I couldn't believe it. And also, I think I was pregnant, so your irritation level is, you know, much higher, or your threshold is much lower, so patience too, yeah. But anyway, it was, I'm glad I did it. It was something to, also at least he kept it down. He sort of didn't ask me to do it too many nights. It was a night shoot, so I only did it twice.
So you've gone from a chimpanzee to a witch.
Mm-hmm.
Have you even dared to ask what your next role might be in this movie?
I don't know. I think but I keep on saying that. I think I've done with the prosthetics, but I love the idea of having a new, you know, exterior and a new envelope, and because one's always, you know, as an actor, I feel limited, very limited by what one actually looks like. So to have someone recreate the exterior is always, it's you know, just exciting, and a relief too.
It's such a fantastical movie in terms of characters and costumes and things like that, but it's still a love story and a story about a relationship. Did you have an emotional response to it, or what was your emotional response when you saw it in its entirety or read the script?
Well, it was so multi-layered because it was, you know, I was watching the film, you know, as a whole, you know, as anyone would watch the film, but then there was, you know, the very personal side, given that it was Tim's film, and then there was all these other layers of just like how it resonated, and I was amazed and surprised at how it resonated with our personal life, and just the fact that I just given birth, you know, 6 weeks ago, so there's a birth scene in it, and also it's about, you know, so much about a young man who's just becoming a parent, beginning to be a parent, and about to be a parent, and calling it, you know, and then looking to his own parents, and so there's a lot that's very personal. So, yeah. But it's such a great. It's hugely, you know. It's also, I was also like amazed at just how he fulfilled what I thought, you know, the screenplay, which was always fantastic, what that promised, but I didn't realize just how great Tim would realize it.
Yeah, it really, the audience reaction that I saw it with, they were like crying.
Yeah, it's very moving and in different times, but also it's incredibly funny too. And it's so unpredictable and it's so original, and you don't quite know where you're going, and yet the resolution of it is perfect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I saw the movie, unfortunately not with the general public, but, you know, with a small group of press, and everybody got quite emotional at the end. Was that the reaction that you had when you first read the script? I mean, what was your initial reaction?
That's a very good question. I can't remember what my reaction was when I first read it. I think I was trying to really understand Will and his determination and his objective, really. I couldn't get a handle on it at the beginning, what he was trying to do. And I was also so invested in the imaginative parts of the story that I think that's where I became most interested. And so in the end, I can't remember.
I guess Tim's scripts are usually so, I mean, you can't get a full idea of what they're actually going to turn out like.
Right, even if he showed you every step along the way, when he begins to put it together, he uses each element with such dexterity that you can't predict the effect of the way that he shot it, the way that he's cut it, the composers. I mean, he really did a wonderful job for me constructing my character's journey. I didn't have any idea how that would come together, and so I'm very grateful.
Now, why isn't Will impressed by his father?
Well, I think he feels like his father doesn't see him, that his father doesn't recognize him, and that his father always is the center of attention. And I think Will feels like sometimes he would like to be the center of attention for his father. And so therefore he becomes kind of reluctant to buy into all of his dad's mythology and stories and humor. And he kind of creates himself outside of his father in whatever way he can.
The movie's so fantastical and there's so many great costumes, and your character seems pretty normal.
You didn't like my costumes? I thought the sweater was very fantastical. Gray wool, you wear that? Yeah, I was the board. I got to wear my Rockports, and I had everything but glasses. He was pretty straight and narrow. But you know what? It's a comfortable place to be.
And do you like the final product?
Very much. I'm very, very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah. And just finally, did it kind of make you reflect on your own relationship with your parents?
Yeah, I don't know how you can avoid it. I really don't. Even if there's no direct correlation, you can't help but reference what it's like to be a child, what it's like to be the child of your parents, and what it's like to become an adult under the guidance of your parents.
All right, well, thank you so much. It was great.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Marker for this?
No, they did.
Photos? They
No,
did.
they steal. Everybody steals my pants.
Oh, we have speed. Okay. I love this movie. You have a suicidal cat.
Yeah. We watched a whole afternoon of circus acts. It was in northern Florida, and we saw death-defying, acrobats, people up on the, high wire acts, death-defying acts, and then all of a sudden, this cat comes up, and it's like that whole day. I'll never forget it. It was my favorite act in the whole world because it's like I've never seen a cat, because cats don't want to do this. You know what I mean? It's like it's not natural for a cat to go up to a top of a tent and then just jump off into a little pillow. And so, it was probably one of the main factors of doing the movie. Not quite.
When you have a script in your hand or a story, do you already kind of see the big picture, or do you start working on details and then building up? How do you work?
Well, you read a script and first of all, it either hits you or it doesn't. You either find something in there that you can relate to or you can't. And so that's step one. You have to feel strongly and connected to it somehow, whatever it is. So this one was a fairly easy one to get connected to. And it had its challenges of, because you're going from fantasy to reality and all of that. And then, those are all challenges, but interesting challenges in thinking about, in the duality of the casting, Albert, Ewan, Jessica, Alison. That was a tricky balance to try to find. And again, I felt very lucky that we got such great people.
Right. Did you relate to Edward, as in being a big fish in a small pond, or?
Well, I related to his. I try to actually relate to all the characters on some level, but I related to him. I related to Will. You try to relate to everybody because that's what you can bring to it. When you're talking to an actor, you're talking to the cameraman or whomever. You've got to have some sort of feeling about each character that way.
There's definitely a couple of the movies, the finale withstanding, the bathtub scene, where the audience, has a lump in their throat and starts bawling, as they did in my screening. Is that the effect that it had on you when you first? Maybe you didn't cry, but what was the emotional reaction to this story for you?
Well, it's hard for me, to tell because when you work on a movie, when I first saw the rough cut, yeah, I got a little teary-eyed, but by the time when you finish a movie, you're kind of insane, you know. So I could cry, you know, if somebody walked into the room, you know, or you know, I saw a cloud that was shaped into, you know, lots of things, you know. So I wasn't not necessarily. I was always hoping, you know, one of the things when I first read the script that I felt, and I was hoping for, thinking about was, you know, I wasn't quite sure where it was going, and then it sort of arrives at something very simple, and I thought that was really beautiful and was something that I was trying for.
I wanted to ask you about your choices of Ewan McGregor and Albert for the same role. How did you put those two together, and why?
Well, you know, because it was as difficult, you couldn't just think of one actor and not the other, but I remember we looked at a picture of Albert when he was in that movie Tom Jones, and if you look at a picture of that and you look at a picture of Ewan, it's quite shocking. There's a certain thing in their smile, a certain thing in their sort of just spirit that is very connective, and so I was very lucky about that, because we weren't trying to just do a mimicking or, you know, job. It was really, because Ewan's part and Alison's part are much the idealized version, so it's a bit fantastical, and yet they still got to be them and kind of real people. So I felt very lucky because they both had that spirit, and the same with Jessica and Alison. I mean, they both have a gravity and are able to find, you know, a simple emotional truth, you know, simply, which, you know, was very important to the film.
Yeah, Bill was saying that he thanks you because he got to wear the great sweater in the Rockport while everybody else got to wear these fantastic costumes.
Yeah, well, no, but you know what? He had the toughest job, and I always thought that he was the emotional anchor. And in fact, that's the character I probably related to more, because I could relate to that with my own father, that sort of repression and that kind of withheld quality and that kind of just, you know, problem with your father, you know.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's really a wonderful movie.
Thank you.
Thank
It was
you.
nice to talk to you.